by taking a few deep breaths. Inhale. Inhale fully, and then as you exhale, feel that energy go through every cell and organ in your body to just relax and be. I am grateful for every moment and every day. Breathe that into your consciousness right now. And if it's comfortable, if you haven't already done so, you can close your eyes or you can stare ahead at a gaze just to be still. And again, still your body. Know where to be. Just be here in this moment. Feel the chair, or if you're sitting at home on Facebook watching us and doing this meditation with us, I invite you to be still and just let the chair or your couch or wherever your comfy chair support you. And we focus on the breath to return that so that our conscious mind can focus on the breath, and it frees our subconscious mind to receive whatever the universe or spirit wants to bring to us during these moments of meditation. And as we still the body, we will quieten the mind, not to turn it off, but just to quieten the mind. Now take a couple of deep breaths just to consciously be aware of this mind that you have, this brilliant mind. And just let the thoughts drift by. No judgment, nothing to do. No judgment, just to accept and to be. And continue to breathe. And as we rest the mind, also rest your heart. Michael Singer, in this book that we're studying, says the heart is sister to our mind. It's what brings objects of consciousness into our being. The mind and the emotions. The emotions come from the heart. Not your physical heart, your spiritual heart. Can you get a sense of that as who you are right now? Relax. Now, as you're still with me for a few moments, I'd like for you to imagine that you're standing on the earth, and then in a moment, in a snap of your finger, the earth slowly dissipates from you, disappears, and you're now in space, observing the earth below you. You're looking at the other planets, you're looking at the moon, you're looking at the sun, and you get a sense of this wonder and awe of this universe we live in. Just for a few moments, imagine that. Into this space, into this nothingness that is so amazing that we live in this universe, and particularly on the planet Earth. So now in your mind's eye, whisper softly to yourself, I exist. I exist. I exist. Right here, right now, the whole universe is projecting itself in focus through an infinite and wonderful idea, which I am. I exist. This is God's image and likeness. Wherever else I am, or whatever else I am, it is simply this I amness that is being appeared, seeing in a mirror darkly. I exist. I exist. continue to breathe. And remind yourself to remember, never forget that beyond the appearance, beyond this humanness, beyond the flesh, beyond the limitations of relationships and environment, there is an allness. An allness. There is a wholeness. There is an I amness. This is what you truly are. When life asks of you, who do you think I am? There's really only one answer, and it comes easily. I am. I am whole. I am an individualized manifestation, expression of the infinite. I am the Christ, the Son and daughter of the living God. So as we rest in the silence for just a few moments, I invite you to repeat this as a mantra if it's comfortable for you, or something like it. I exist. I exist. I exist. Rest in the silence for just a few moments. In the silence. Take a deep breath and hold this awareness of stillness just for another moment. And so as you've been resting in space, in this infinite space of the universe, I invite you to bring yourself back to the earth where we are right here. Very gently, just come back. I hope you had a nice trip of just being in this magical, mystical wonder and awe place, and to get a sense of your wholeness into that place. Allness means wholeness, and so we're an eachness. Each of us are an eachness in the allness of this universe. So breathe, and then you begin to move your body. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Roll your shoulders. And when you're comfortable, you can open your outer eyes and be fully present in this now moment. You look like you enjoyed the trip. So, my name is Ron Holdaway, Reverend Ron Holdaway. I'm the minister here at Unity Spiritual Center of Panama City. Great for y'all, all of y'all to be with us. As you can probably tell, we're a participatory type church. Especially when Bill is the platform, he engages us and gets us going. We all do that. So we're here to celebrate oneness and to smile and be happy. That's why we're here. So I'm glad you're here with us. And as Bill said, this book, Living Untethered, is this. It's actually the third book Michael Singer has written about this concept of the untethered soul. The first one was written about 10 years ago, and I read that one sometime shortly after that, and I know from several of you talking about that, the untethered the untethered soul. It's hard to get into. It was a little, maybe it was the time period or whatever, but it is a lot to get into. And so this one is, and yet I think the organization of it's a little better even. So if you read the other one, it'll help you get into this. If you haven't, it'll be just fine to start with this book if you want to read it. We have additional books in the back, $10 a piece. You can see Chris after the service if you want one, or you can order it on Amazon. And I heard somebody talking before the service, and this is a lifetime experience, so you might want the book, because like these 4 or 5 chapters that I'm going to talk about today, can barely do it justice in 15 or 20 minutes, or 30 minutes. Bill, do I have 30 minutes? No. So Bill keeps me on time most of the time. Well, he tries to. I ignore him most of the time, but seriously, it's a lot to cover. It's a lot to. All I can do is hit the highlights and give you some of my experiences. And your experiences will be totally different and totally unique and even more in depth than what I can probably share with you. So we've looked at this conscious awareness. You are a conscious being. That's the miracle that we're here to celebrate, really. This consciousness that we get to experience this world, our life as a conscious awareness. Michael Singer says there's 3 objects of our consciousness, and that's the outside world, the mind, and our emotions, the emotions that we have. So last week we went in depth talking about the outside world, how it was created. We went even into quantum, not only the universe, but then into quantum physics, how we got here through the birth of the stars, which birth the elements that make us up. So you may have heard this saying, I think Carl Sagan was the one that made it popular, that we're stardust, we're made out of stardust, which is literally true. The atoms that were formed from the stars, the molecules formed from the stars, the creation of the stars and the planet, is what we are made of. It's what we are made up of. Those elements came from the stars after the Big Bang. So the reason for that, the reason to go so much in detail of that, I think, is so that we have a sense of what this outside world, that we spend so much time, even our mental awareness, our mental capacity is dealing with that outside world. And so again, our consciousness and what comes into it is not just the outer, but it's what we talked about last week. It's also our inner experiences, and that's our thoughts and our emotions. So Bill, we had in the little intros, one of the things that we have to answer is, what is the mind? And Michael Singer says, in the simplest sense, mind is the place in which thoughts exist. We have thoughts all the time. I've said this several times lately since we've been studying some of this, that we have about 60,000 thoughts every day. 60,000 thoughts are going through our minds every day. If you don't think your mind is a marvelous creation, just think about that we're processing that. Some of the things maybe we shouldn't be processing, like, why is she driving so slow? Oh, sorry, Susan, I didn't mean to look at you. Sorry. I should have been looking out there somewhere. And so 60,000 thoughts a day. Can you imagine? I mean, we don't even realize that until, but that's what the neuroscientists, they've tested people and can see that, probably extrapolated it from some tests. But The scientists, we don't have a machine that can read your thoughts yet. The other day, I called my wife, Karen. I said, do you want me to pick something up for dinner? And she said, yeah, but I don't know what I want. And I said, well, how about this? And she said, how can you do that? How did you read my mind? And I said, I didn't. We've done it a few times. But there's not a machine that can read your thoughts or your emotions. We don't have that generated yet, like we do for expanding our understanding of the infrared structure, the magnetic infrared structure of light and energy, where X-rays and all this medical technology has come from these machines we've created, but we don't have one for the mind. And one thing that to note that Michael Singer points out a couple times throughout the book, is we are going deeper and deeper into ourself, in the deepest part of our soul, that many people don't want to look at. Many of us don't want to look at it. We just don't want to look deeper. I mean, we can just live. I don't mean it's to live superficially. To a degree, that's probably what that means. But thank you for being here, all of you for being here and on this planet and in this universe, to be willing to look deeper into your own soul. Michael Singer says again, he says, spiritual awakening is about untangling consciousness from the objects of consciousness. Untangling consciousness, the observer that we are as we watch these three objects in our consciousness, the outside world, thoughts, and emotions. As we watch those, observe them, and we untangle this. He also says that we've made a pretty good mess out of it sometimes. But as we untangle it, that's the spiritual awakening. And you have an amazing power to do that. Thoughts and emotions surely exist, but not in what we define as the physical world. So it's not a physical world that those exist. And as I was preparing for this, I couldn't help but think of all the great books. Bill talked about it, Principle 2. We did the 5 principles just a couple months ago. The Principle 3 is about thoughts and feelings. We've expanded that. Most of the definition is expanding. Human beings create their experiences by the activity of their thoughts and emotions. So he doesn't talk about that, but it's so parallel to what we're talking about. Same thing like Bill said with Principle 2. And what if the scientist said to you, some scientists said, or a doctor, said thoughts and emotions aren't really there because they don't exist, we can't see them. That's laughable, isn't it? We know it's there. We know, you know it's there. The you in there, the you inside of you, we know it's there. And then it's important to remember, you are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions, you are the observer. You're the subject. The objects and the outside world and the emotions are the objects, and you are the subject. So mind, when we talk about what is mind is not the thoughts. Mind is the field of energy in which thoughts are capable of existing. Think of the mind as high vibration field of energy in which thoughts can be created. So thoughts are not the mind, but they exist in the mind and are formed out of the substance of the mind, the energy of the mind, what we create with this energy. So last week, did you find any moments of awe and wonder about this universe and this world that you live in? Did you have any sense of experiencing your outer world just as it's passing by, as accepting reality? Did you feel like it was personal? Did you make peace with the fact that Saturn has 7 rings and you can't change that? Or whatever else that you sometimes will think that the universe, the world, your life should be the way you want it to be. When the creation came to us, the planets, the galaxies all came to us as they are, and we get to experience that. Did you get the same sense that it's not personal? Now, when we say the events are not personal to us, we frequently think that the universe is out to get me. I can't get a break. Do we mean that the universe is against us? And no, that's not what that means. Eric Butterworth says it this way, noted Unity author, the universe owes you a living. The universe owes you a living. What he doesn't say is the world owes you a living. The world in which we live right here. And he goes on to say, you owe the universe a life. Give back to the universe. Give your life fully as who you are. Back to the mind. Buddha, the concepts of empty mind is the first thing that Michael Singer talks about. Now, you know he's a Buddhist. He's a practicing Buddhist. And he has a lot of that teaching weaved into his book. It is the mind again is a field of energy with nothing in it. The empty mind has a field of energy like nothing's in it. I don't know if you felt that when you're out. When I do that little meditation of being out in space, I get that sense just for a few minutes, not always. There's no thoughts, absolutely still, formless. It's a field of energy we call the mind. Now we talk about too in meditation, if you have the thoughts, don't try to, this is not an effort that you do. You don't try to control that or force it. If you're in that place where you can let go, and again it takes, if you notice the spiritual teachers that are meditators, experienced meditators, keep practicing. They keep doing it. We have to keep practicing. Meditation is a practice of letting go. So it's not just conceptual. This isn't a conceptual idea. You can go there. You can go to this place of nothingness. Can't force it. And deep meditators understand this. You just rest in the void. Rest in the void. In empty mind. So the parallel to this, the metaphor is, he talks about a computer with no software loaded on it. So, because we are the first, mind is the first computer. But one of the biggest jokes on humankind right now is that computers have begun to ask humans to prove they aren't a robot. How many times do you do that? You want to prove that you're not a robot. Yeah. So the outside world exists independently of this mind. Whether the mind is quiet or noisy, the planets continue to spin on its axis. The galaxies continue to float. Physical and mental planes, these objects have different vibrational energies. From our experience, we know that consciousness is capable of being aware of both the physical and the mental plane at the same time. And that's, it seems like we're going to go crazy sometimes when we do that, doesn't it? So we have a body with 5 senses that brings to us, that comes in, and evolution has perfected to experience the outside world. Yet what we bring in, what we pick up, is rendered inside the mind. We don't see, when you remember we keep talking about this, how do you see me? Where do you see me? You see me in your mind, not through your eyes. You see me through your mind. And we see everything in the outside world through our mind. The mind is no longer empty. We're not looking at the outside world as being, the outside world is being reproduced in your mind. You're not looking at that mental image except in the mind. It's being re-rendered. That is one of the biggest jobs or functions that our mind is doing. In a dream state, Bill is going to talk about that next week. Don't miss that. It'll be a great chapter to talk about thoughts and dreams. By the way, if you read the Untethered Soul, the chapters were the mind part 1, the mind part 2. Well, he retitled it, which I think is better, kind of helps. The mind, which I'm talking about today, and then Bill next Sunday will talk about thoughts and dreams, about how the mind also works there too. But in dream states, the images are being created in the mind, and you're looking at the mental image. It's like having these images portrayed on a TV screen or a movie screen. Your mind is brilliant, very brilliant. Look at all the technology we use today to duplicate what occurs in your mind. It's an amazing gift. It's an amazing gift. The mind, like I said earlier, the mind is really the first personal computer, and it's so close to us. It's so close that it responds to your will, and the slightest impulse from your heart. Now, in 2 weeks, Melissa is going to talk about the heart, and I mentioned that in the meditation. When we talk about the heart is the source of emotions, it's not the physical heart, even though that's where we kind of think love, and that's where we associate love and all the other emotions, from good and bad, coming from the heart, and good and negative, and but it's really your spiritual heart. It's that essence, the essence that we are, is where these are coming from. So from an empty mind to a mind that renders our outside world and our inner thoughts, we move from that empty mind to a place that has lots going on. So Michael Singer says, consciousness is the most profound miracle of all. You in there, that's the you, the capital Y-O-U, in there, you are the essence, an essence that knows, it knows. True magic is consciousness itself. Not magic in the sense of magical, but just the creation of that consciousness. When consciousness is simply being exercised as reality as imaged in the mind, that is what Singer calls being in the present moment. There is nowhere else to be. We're aware of the moment in front of us, no distractors. There is just oneness with the moment in front of you. When we are in the present moment, not scattered, consciousness is centered within, not distracted on the outer edges. We say a lot, live from the center of our being, not on the edges. Live from the center of your being, not on the edges. This is truly a spiritual experience when we do that. So the Yoga Sutras of Panchaliya, if somebody's in that, forgive me for messing that up. It's when the experiencer and the experience become one. The experience, so this self, this you, becomes one. So there's lots of examples. You can get that from a walking on the beach, or looking at the trees, or go bird watching. You can get that experience when the observer, you, and the experience become one. It's a point of single consciousness. I've had since I've been in Unity, I've had several of those just from meditation, long meditations, and have some of that. So I'm sure you have too. But why don't we live in that ecstatic state of single point connection? Why can't we stay there? We have different experiences of different objects. We have experience of hot and cold, not good or bad. It's just different. Everything has its nature that we're experiencing. So Michael Singer uses this metaphor of the rattlesnake and the butterfly. That the experience of if you have an experience with a rattlesnake, I started to change that. Matter of fact, I wrote something else, but it wasn't as good as what he gave, because he uses it all throughout these chapters. But it explains this idea of a so-called negative experience of the rattlesnake. Now, some people don't mind that, but most of us do. We don't like that. And the butterfly, when you have this beautiful butterfly comes, lands on your arm. The experience of that in our mind, what we do with that, we don't let go of it. We keep those experiences with us. And so we can be driving down the road, and all of a sudden here comes a rattlesnake in our mind. Or we can be driving, sitting at home on the front porch, and where are all the butterflies? Wishing the butterflies would be here, wishing to have this peaceful moment. Where are the butterflies? So what it's doing, what he says that does, it moves us from reality, from the moment in front of us. Now, again, it's nothing wrong or good or bad about this, except it takes us away from reality of what's in front of us. And it's just an example of the rattlesnake can be whatever your experiences are in life. It could be a divorce. It could be that you were hurt sometime as a kid, bullied. It can be, whatever has happened in your life. Those experiences that we don't let go of, that we hold in our mind, become a block to us. And the rattlesnake's not going to be there rattling its rattle all the time and physically, and yet it comes into our mind as if it's real. You've all probably had the experience, I hope not, and maybe probably don't want to get on the roads, but you think about this, you can be driving down the road and look up in just a minute, say, how did I get there? How did I get where I am? And just a flash, a few seconds, you don't remember because that rattlesnake came and visited, or the butterfly, the joyful experiences as well too. So he's using that as a metaphor to explain to us, to help us see that these blocked experiences, it's like, but we have the ability with these, he calls it inner hands to push away these thoughts and emotions, so that if they don't feel right, and to resist bringing those experiences, keep them in consciousness. I thought about he uses the rattlesnake as the metaphor for this, and if Adam and Eve were Cajuns, they would have eaten the snake instead of the apple and saved us a lot of trouble. So I probably ought to send that to him. Tell him that came in my mind. So the power of will plays a part of mind. To understand the mind, we have to understand the power of will. It's how the mind developed from a place of clarity to one of confusion. You pay attention to some objects, you ignore the others. It's right and wrong, likes and dislikes. It's the foundation of personal mind, a like and a dislike. It happens at a very primal level. We don't even realize that's happening. But it makes what's real to us. It sets our paradigms. It's what I call paradigm is our worldview. It's the way that all the experiences that have come into you, come into me. It's our paradigm of the world. And it's different for each one of us. So we have the power, we have a force of consciousness that is the power. When you focus that force on a particular mental object, we can focus if it's a math problem, if it's figuring something out with whatever it is. We have that ability to focus so single-mindedness, and it freezes the mind so it just doesn't pass through. And this is the birth of resistance. This is the birth of the personal mind. So a lot of times when we talk about mind, we think it's probably this is the most prevalent way we use mind is our personal mind, and that's our individual paradigms. It's the way we see the world. It's not what the you inside of us is capable of seeing, of being. So I'm going to skip some of this, but I wanted to mention to you that there's so many parallels to this today. Brene Brown has a great book called Perfect Imperfection. It's looking at the shame and vulnerability. This is a prime example of this, where we hold, there's some event, some trauma that's created shame or guilt, and there's a difference, but a shame or guilt inside of us may have happened from as a kid, or made us feel unworthy. That's usually what happens. And we carry that, we block it. We don't want to address it at the time, so we push it in and we don't bring it up to discuss it. It stays with us. It's not easy to dive deep into our souls to uncover these old hurts. It's just not a thing that a lot of us want to do. We look at these for spiritual growth, not just because it's the chic thing to do. Sometimes we get off in these cliques and we want to go just look at, explore our shadow side or whatever the current, the fad is. But we do it so that we can be spiritually awoken, spiritually awake. When we have it removes these blocks from us so that we can have wholehearted life, being connected with compassion and love, wholehearted connection. And I'm not sure it's the only way, because a lot of us are doing it, But Brene Brown, in her research on shame and authenticity, says that we have to be connected and compassionate and loving beings. We have to bring up some of this stuff. We have to bring it up. And by bringing it up, it loses its power because it's blocked. So the Buddhists talk about clinging, where we have a positive experience like the butterfly. It can distract us. So all of these kind of things can distract us when they get trapped inside of us. The problem is not reality. The problem is reality is not personal. We didn't create this world. We didn't create all the butterflies and rattlesnakes in our world. So your ability and my ability to fully focus on the outer world is going to be hindered by the constant distractions of these inner impressions. So the impressions in our mind stay stuck. They're called samskaras. It's the idea that there's an unfinished pattern from the past, samskaras, and that's what's coming up in our lives. So when that comes up, those unfinished patterns, we don't see the world. We don't see reality in front of us. We stay stuck. This came from the ancient yoga text over 1,000 years ago, thousands of years, and it took Sigmund Freud that many years to bring up those concepts of what the ancient yoga teachers and masters studied thousands of years ago. This idea that we get stuck and blocked from these patterns in our psyche, in our mind. There's a book I've recently picked up and started reading. Somebody recommended it to me. And don't tell me a book, because if you tell me a book, that's my journey, is I'm supposed to go buy the book. So I need a little break. I need a vacation from buying some new ones. But it's called 4,000 Weeks. So if we live 80 years, just as a round number, hopefully we'll do more than that. I think the average age is 87. But if we live 4,000 to 80, that's 4,000 weeks. That's the time we have, is 4,000 weeks. Some of you look a little, 80 times 52 is roughly 4,000. So sometimes the purpose, so rather than get all hung up in this busyness and the hustle and bustle and the projects that we create in our mind, we have to stop and say sometimes the purpose of life is to just enjoy existing. Just enjoy this universe, enjoy existing. So when we get stuck with all these samskaras, we're blocked and we sometimes can enjoy what's happening in front of us. So now, little qualification. There's a vast difference between memory and samskaras. Stored memories like phone numbers and names of people and addresses, email addresses these days now. Those memories or birthdays, those are memories that we recall and are, of incidental consequence to our everyday life. It doesn't really have any struggle, if you will, to the memories. And it's like a computer program. It's like a computer where they have, we've got a hard drive on the computer and we can store those things. But the samskaras, the things that are blocked, can change our reality. That's what he's saying, is that it can change reality. That's the difference. And so it's a drastic contrast between the memories and these blocked experiences in our mind. The truth is, life is not hitting your weak spots. When we have these kind of blocks in our life, life is not about hitting the weak spots. That's not what happens to us. Life doesn't do that to us. It's you or me or projecting your weak spots onto life. Now again, that's not we don't beat ourselves up about any of this. There's no guilt or shame. We've had enough shoulds to last us for a lifetime, a couple lifetimes. So we don't have any shoulds. We don't should all over ourselves. You've heard that, right? No shoulds. So don't take that as something into your consciousness as here's Ron says this is what we do. We project. We are projecting your weakness, our weak spots, onto life. When you commit to spiritual growth, and that's what we're doing by listening to this, reading the book, you work on letting go of the stored blockages from the past and not storing any more from the present. So just by being aware of it, we can not store any more to block us. He talks about, I just saw the trees. So you can have multiple experiences and they can change from one day to the next. You can go out in the forest and see the trees, but you can also get hung up and see something crawling around on the floor, a bug, or see a rattlesnake. So the Buddhists call it just see the tree, where you can go into have an experience where you just see the tree, a one-point thing where you just see the tree, just see the tree. And we can practice that. It's something we can practice. There's nothing wrong with the mind itself. Nothing wrong. It's just how we use it. Use the powerful gift that we're given of the human mind. Just like a computer that doesn't have any software loaded on it. The potential is amazing. So it's just that way for us too. So in closing, the three things that he talks about the layers of our mind. The here and now layer, it's where we're rendering the present experience, both external and internal, that's taking place into ourselves, rendering that experience. The samkhara layer is experiences that we did not release that are occurring. That's the layer of mind. And then personal thoughts layer. It is the layer we identify with the most. We think this is who we are. We think that's who we are, and that's not who we are. Amazing, brilliant human mind. Look at all we've created in our existence. Look at all the inventions and the scientific discoveries. The JST, we're learning more and more every day. We think now the JST and the physicists are thinking that it's going to prove that the universe is older than 13.8 billion years. Still working on it. We don't know that for sure. But it's just amazing. We've created all that with our mind. So if I asked you who you are, you answer, I am the one who sees. From back in there somewhere, I look out, and I am the events, thoughts, and emotions that pass before me. I am the one. You are the one. So next week, Bill's going to continue this on thoughts and dreams. And then, like I said, Melissa's going to talk about emotions. So thank you for showing up to consider this work on your spiritual journey. Namaste. So I was going to play, but I've already gone over Bill. So but I was going to play Michael God. I hate missing him today. That was a perfect song for this talk. But we'll go ahead and close. I know, Becky, you're having a meeting after service today.
The welcome team, yeah. We're just going to have a short little meeting if you want to gather right up front.
Yeah, welcome team. If you're signed up for the welcome team little meeting to get organized with that, that's great. Thank you all for doing that. So, again, God bless. Have a blessed week. Bob?
All right. Thank you, Reverend Ron. Very good. We're looking forward to the next chapters in the book, Michael Singer's book. Okay, we're ready to end our service today, and normally we try to form a large circle, if you're able to do that. Might be a little smaller today. It varies week to week. We're going to do it here? Yeah, we're going to do it. Looking good. Here we go. The words will be on the screen, and we're going to do the peace song.
Right now we're the thinker. Full screen.
There will be music. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as